Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today I'm talking about this new album from Rival Sons, Darkfighter. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlists we put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So over the last few weeks, I've been trying to do more of these album reviews. It's actually something I've been wanting to do for a while. I just, for one reason or another, just haven't gotten around to doing them. But there's been so many great albums released so far in 2023. I've been kind of more encouraged to do it, I guess, because of the quality of some of these albums. But this week, I'm looking at Darkfighter by Rival Sons. This was released on June 2nd. It was their seventh studio album. This is actually one of two releases for the band in 2023. Lightbringer is their other album. It's supposed to be coming out, I guess it's scheduled for later part of 2023. So it's going to be interesting. You don't see a lot of bands nowadays doing two albums in 1 year. I guess I know it was a common thing there for, decades and decades in music. I know, there's lots of bands in the 60s and 70s, even through the beginning part of the 80s that would release multiple albums in 1 year. But you don't see a whole lot of people doing it. I know Jack White did that last year. But this is a really interesting album. I've really loved Rival Sons so far. Their first six albums have all been really fantastic. They'll have they're one of those bands, one of those newer rock bands that I don't think has really made a bad album. If you're unfamiliar with who Rival Sons are, they started back in 2009. They're kind of in that classic blues rock kind of mode. If you're familiar, if you're familiar, or if you really like bands like some other bands that they're really kind of similar to are the Black Keys, Greta Van Fleet, Dirty Honey, which is another great rock band. Even to go back to like older bands like Led Zeppelin, they're very much in the same vein as a lot of those other bands. So if you really like a lot of that blues rock kind of stuff over from the last couple of decades, I highly recommend checking out Rival Sons. So a little bit about the new album here. This was produced by Dave Cobb, and Dave's done a bunch of great work over the last few years. He's worked with Chris Stapleton. He's worked with Sturgill Simpson. He's worked with John Prine. A lot of really great musicians that he's been involved with. And I think it really comes through on this album. This is, like I said, this is their seventh album. I've loved all six of their albums previously. I don't think Rival Sons has made a bad album, but I think this is an improvement in their sound over those last couple of albums. They, Rival Sons is somebody that really kind of has focused on evolving their music. You're not going to listen to one album. It's not going to sound like the next album. It's not going to sound like, three albums before, which I think is a really great thing. And it's unfortunately something you don't get in a lot of newer rock music. I feel like a lot of newer rock bands, they'll create one good album and then they kind of try to recreate that sound on their next album. And it's great to see a band like Rival Sons getting, put out there a little bit more in the mainstream, because I think they have been a little bit more experimental with their sound. And with this album, they sound hungrier. It's almost it's a more complete album than I think they've ever done in their career. And it's just it's a great album. Like I said, it's from beginning to end. There's no filler on here. There's only 8 tracks. It runs a little over 39 minutes, and it's just a great listen. Whenever I hear people talk about how rock music in the 2022, 2023 is dead, Rival Sons is one of those bands I always point to and say, if you are a rock fan, if you like blues rock, definitely check them out. Because like I said, I don't think they've made a bad album throughout their career. And to be completely honest, they're a band that's taken me, it wasn't probably until within the last probably year and a half that I started getting more into the music. And, but once I started listening to it, I instantly fell in love with so many albums and so many great tracks that they have. But as far as great music on this album here, I could really pick any of the 8 tracks on here. But Nobody Wants to Die is a great track. It's actually funny. Somebody in the Facebook group recommended this album to me, and because I had talked about it in my new release video a couple of weeks ago when the album came out, and I said that I was going to stream it, but I hadn't gotten around to listen to it until a week or so back. And somebody in the Facebook group was like, "Hey, you got to listen to this album." And it was on that second song, Nobody Wants to Die, when I was streaming it. I was like, okay, I've got to buy this album. It is that good. But so that's a great track. Bird in the Hand is another great track. Rapture is a great track. Dark Side, which ends the album, is another great track. Like I said, I could have picked any of the 8 tracks, but I think those are probably the top 4 for me. I think overall, I really have to give this album, I wanted to go 8.5. I decided to go 9 with it because it is that good. It is so much better than what you're seeing from rock music, I think, from other bands. Like I said, other bands I love, Rival Sons is doing it better. And I think a 9 is warranted for this album because of how great it is. The musicianship is top notch on here. Guitar playing, I don't remember the name of the guitarist for the band, but I think it's some of the best guitar work I've heard on a rock album of the last couple of years. It's that good. So if you're unfamiliar with Rival Sons, definitely go back and stream their previous 6 albums. But I would start with this one because I think of their 7 albums, this is the best that the band has done so far. And I've got high hopes for that second album later this year. But let me know what you guys think. Drop me a comment down below. I'd love to know what you guys think. How would you rate this album? Have you listened to this album? Are you a fan of Rival Sons, or are you just discovering them? I've been talking about them a lot in the Facebook group over the last week or so, ever since I got this album. And I've turned a couple of people onto the band, and hopefully I can spread the gospel a little bit more, I guess, out there, and create some more fans for the band, because I think this is a great direction for rock music in the 2020s, and I'd love to know what you guys think. Drop me a comment down below. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.